Those were the headlines. Hello and welcome to Business Lunch. I'm Nisha Podar, and with me, as always, is my co-anchor Pavitra Parekh. Let's now begin with the market. Yes, market is a big headline today, and it started with a huge amount of cut. But right now, it has covered some bit of ground, 17,300 reconquered by Nifty 50, and at the moment showing a downtick of 1.3%. A large part of that is also coming in from the big boy Reliance Industries, which is showing resilience ahead of its AGM today. But when it comes to the ones which are really pulling the markets down, are especially led by the technology stocks, all the tech biggies, as well as also remember the metals are not doing well, and the financials 1.9% down, so clearly underperforming the key indices as well. When it comes to the mid caps, yes, it opened with a bigger cut than the key indices, but have right now shown much more resilience in terms of some bit of recovery, about 1% down in trade. But advanced decline ratio is not a surprise. Definitely the market is looking weak, especially because of the Fed chair's comments coming in and the global pressure points really working on the Indian markets as well. Pavitra.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, it is a weak day, no two ways about that, but it's been a significant recovery from the lows as well, 150 points higher from the day's low. And by the way, this is a recovery that we've seen play out in the rest of the Asian markets as well. So, Hang Seng, for instance, is now down only around 0.6%. It was down over 2.5% at its lowest. So, there has been that recovery that we've seen across the Asian markets as well. For our own markets, of course, we do have the banks which are under pressure, but it is the tech names which are really leading this decline. So, some of the larger ones will be up on your screen. The Nifty IT index in itself is down 3.5%, and for the full year it's already seen a slide of 30%. If you're really looking for green in this market, look at the FMCG pack, because that is the one managing to hold up. Reliance also, of course, in focus ahead of the AGM, but that stock has slipped back into the red. So we're watching no big move there, but that is, of course, a stock that we're going to keep on our radar. So let's start off now with the big story. Of course, it is the global equity markets, which were completely rattled by the comments from from the Fed chief at the Jackson Hole summit. In fact, speaking at that summit, Jerome Powell said that restoring price stability would take some time, and that the Fed would have to forcefully use their tools to bring about a better demand-supply balance, something which could bring some pain into the U.S. economy. So let's now listen in to those comments.
Price stability is the responsibility of the Federal Reserve and serves as the bedrock of our economy. Without price stability, the economy does not work for anyone. In particular, without price stability, we will not achieve a sustained period of strong labor market conditions that benefit all. The burdens of high inflation fall heaviest on those who are least able to bear them. Restoring price stability will take some time and requires using our tools forcefully to bring demand and supply into better balance. Restoring price stability will likely require maintaining a restrictive policy stance for some time. The historical record cautions strongly against prematurely loosening policy. We are taking forceful and rapid steps to moderate demand so that it comes into better alignment with supply and to keep inflation expectations anchored. We will keep at it until we're confident the job is done.
All right, so that was important comments coming in from the Fed chair. Now, earlier today, we also caught up with Randy Krossner, who's the Deputy Dean, University of Chicago Booth School of Business and former Federal Reserve Governor, to understand what he really makes of Fed Chair's Jackson Hole speech and what's the prognosis as well as the analysis on this. Listen in.
He had said that at the previous Fed meeting at the beginning of the month. He had said that he and his colleagues have been saying that over and over again since the Fed meeting, but the markets weren't believing it. And finally, when he gave a very short speech that was focused on one thing, which was we're going to be raising rates and then keeping them there until the job is done, as you heard him just say, the markets finally realized this guy's serious. They're going to keep rates up for probably most of 2023 rather than pivot sometime in early 23, which is what the markets had been expecting.
All right, that is some important opinion coming in. But speaking about the impact of all of these comments coming through, emerging market currencies slipped following Jerome Powell's comments at the Jackson Hole summit, with the rupee hitting a fresh record low below the 80 rupees a dollar mark. So Lata is now here to take us through that. Lata, take us through the kind of moves that we've seen in the currency market.
Yes, it was an all-time low for the rupee at 80.12. And that's largely dictated by the global rush of the dollar rising to a fresh 20-year high on Powell's speech. I mean, if there is no interruption in the rise in the yields all the way to 4%, the Fed funds rate, then clearly the dollar was stronger. The index went over 109 at one point in time. So all EM currencies are lower, between about 0.2 and 0.8%. That's the range. The rupee did recover towards the 80 mark because of Reserve Bank selling a lot of dollars. But just want to add, there are two things. One is that the rupee has actually strengthened vis-a-vis other EM currencies in the past 1 month. And therefore, the Reserve Bank may be okay to allow a little bit of depreciation because you do want to remain competitive with other Asian emerging markets. The other thing is that there is this big expectation that Indian bonds will be included in the JPM index, at least the Financial Times story of Friday indicated that. And that also means a little bit of cushioning of India. So that could be actually positive for the rupee. Speaking of which, the bond yields, which had risen a lot, which had fallen a lot on Friday on the bond inclusion news, actually today gave up their gains. The bond yields rose again by about 4 or 5 basis points despite this bond inclusion news, because the bond inclusion news only helps the spot bond market. In the OIS market, swap market, actually bond yields have risen by 10 basis points. And that obviously is that if the US continues to raise rates, then India can't pause anytime soon. So those fears are creeping in. And plus, of course, crude is still 3 digits, you know. The recession fears are not hitting crude as much. And that's another negative for bonds.
All right, Lata, thanks so much for giving us all those important details on the rupee movement. That'll be one thing to watch out for, especially after the record low that it has hit today. With that, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch. But remember, IRCTC is in focus after sources indicate that the company may have dropped its plans for a 3,000 crore rupees OFS or offer for sale. More on that story after a very short break. Don't go anywhere.
मैडम जी वो सारे पैसे लेके भाग गए और मेरा वड़ा पाव भी ले गए।
दिखाते हैं इनको।
मोटे वड़ा पाव। डीलर निकाल दे इसके बाद।
पंक्चर के बाद भी इससे हवा नहीं निकलेगी, क्योंकि ये है जेके पंक्चर गार्ड टायर, जो कील लगने के बाद भी होता है हील। जेके पंक्चर गार्ड टायर, अब हवा नहीं निकलेगी।
ये जमीन तो स्वर्गीय पिता के नाम है ना?
हाँ सर।
माँ का नसीब भूल गए?
नहीं भूले सर।
और तहसीलदार का?
और एसडीएम सर का भी। और कुछ सर? भाई जी, एक लास्ट साइन रह गया है, आपका। कंग्रेचुलेशंस, आपका कृषि लोन अप्रूव्ड।
थैंक यू। हर बंद राह ओपन हो सकती है, लगता है सिर्फ दिल। एक्सिस बैंक, दिल से ओपन।
OLX ऑटोस ही देता है आपकी कार का बेस्ट प्राइस।
क्या बात कर रहे हो?
यही कि OLX ऑटोज ही देता है आपकी कार का बेस्ट प्राइस। ये प्राइस नहीं, सरप्राइज है। विजिट olxautos.in।
ये स्नैक्स एंजॉय करने का नया तरीका है, स्मार्ट तरीका है। पर आपको पता है और क्या स्मार्ट है? इन्वेस्टिंग ऑन एंजल वन, जीरो ब्रोकरेज एंड फुल कन्वीनियंस। अब तो मैं सिर्फ फूड शेयर करता हूँ, ब्रोकरेज नहीं।
Investments in securities markets are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
There are those who are always looking for what's next. Changing lanes, shifting modes, always in command. Sensing what lies ahead. The all-new Hyundai Tucson Next drives now.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Lunch, and let's bring you an exclusive now. Sources are telling us that IRCTC has dropped plans for an offer for sale worth 3,000 crore rupees. This is information that my colleague Yash is picking up, and he joins us now with the details. Yash?
So, Pavitra, it's two withdrawals for IRCTC that we're talking about. One which they officially announced, which was about withdrawal of the tender for appointment of a consultant for data monetization. And the second one is what we're picking up through our sources, which is that the government has also dropped the plans for an offer for sale for IRCTC as of now. Remember, there was an RFP or request for proposal with the various investment banks which are working on this particular OFS, through which IRCTC or government was looking to raise about 3,000 crore. It entailed a dilution of about 3.5%. That RFP, according to our sources, has been withdrawn for now. As far as normal course and normal, way of things are concerned, normally the RFP remains in action, and then the government can decide whenever they want to launch the OFS. But in this particular case, the RFP has been withdrawn, and whenever the government thinks the market conditions are stable enough for an offer for sale of IRCTC, they will float a fresh RFP with the bankers, do roadshows, collect reviews on this particular OFS and go on. But for now, that particular RFP for IRCTC OFS has been dropped by the government.
All right, Yash, thanks so much for giving us all those important details. In dynamic markets, especially during volatility, a lot of these offers could be really hitting the cold storage. But if you really take a look at this particular stock, IRCTC is today down and the overall market is weak, so it's 3.5% down. But if you really see year-to-date kind of a trajectory as well, it's on the lower side. Remember, the stock had gone past 850 levels. So obviously, the stakeholders will want to make better returns, and in a volatile market, probably stay away from a stake sale or a monetization plan. So important story there. Let's move on to some important national developments then. And the newly sworn in Chief Justice of India, UU Lalit, has assumed office today. Now, the new CJI's first working day has some important pleas as well as several long pending cases lined up. In fact, my colleague Ashmit Kumar, who has been getting us all the updates from the courtroom actions, joins us on the phone line with more details on the new CJI. Ashmit, tell us.
Well, that's right. Justice UU Lalit assumed office today. Today is day one for him as the Chief Justice of India. He is India's 49th Chief Justice of India. What's interesting is that he's only the second advocate to have been elevated to the Supreme Court, to have later become the Chief Justice of India. He'll have only a short tenure of about a little less than 3 months. And keeping that in mind, it seems that he appears to be a man of action. Over 900 matters were listed today before various benches of the Supreme Court, and this is just day one. And among some of the key cases that he handled, well, number one was a PIL that had sought to invoke NSA, the National Securities Act, in cases of hoarding, profiteering, adulteration, and black marketing. On that, a bench headed by the CJI himself, the new CJI, has agreed to hear that PIL and has issued notice. Another interesting case was a PIL, which in fact had raised the question of French investigation authorities discovering that kickbacks had been paid by Dassault to Indian officials in the Rafale French aircraft deal. That has been squarely dismissed. The Supreme Court bench, headed by the CJI himself, said that no case is made out. And finally, there was also an interesting application by Siddique Kapan. He is a journalist who's in fact facing UAPA charges, is currently in jail in Uttar Pradesh. And the bench, again headed by the CJI, took charge of the matter, has directed for UP to file its reply, and will be taking up and deciding that case on September 9th. So pointing towards action, the new Chief Justice, of course, today is just day one. We'll begin to see how he takes charge of some of these important cases that remain pending before the top court in the days to come. Back to you.
All right, Ashmit, thanks a lot for taking us through all of the schedule as well as details for what the day one for the new Chief Justice of India does look like. With that, we're going to get into a short break now. But on the other side, the big Reliance AGM is due to get underway in just minutes from now. So we're going to get you all of the expectations when we come back.
That's the boss's cabin. The canteen is behind.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. And you are here. Good morning. Good morning.
मैम और कोई ऑप्शंस
लाइफ में और कहीं ऑप्शंस मिले ना मिले, मोतीलाल ओसवाल आपको देता है ऑप्शंस ट्रेडिंग में ऑप्शंस। इंट्रोड्यूसिंग मोतीलाल ओसवाल ऑप्शन स्टोर विद अ वाइड रेंज ऑफ ऑप्शंस इन ऑप्शंस ट्रेडिंग। एक्सप्लोर करो ऑप्शन स्टोर ऑन एमओ इन्वेस्टर एंड एमओ ट्रेडर ऐप। डाउनलोड नाउ। इन्वेस्टमेंट इन सिक्योरिटीज मार्केट इज सब्जेक्ट टू मार्केट रिस्क्स। रीड ऑल द रिलेटेड डॉक्यूमेंट्स केयरफुली बिफोर इन्वेस्टिंग।
OLX ऑटोज ही देता है आपकी कार का बेस्ट प्राइस। सुनीता, सुना तुमने ये क्या बोल रहे हैं?
यही कि OLX ऑटोज देता है आपकी कार का बेस्ट प्राइस। ये प्राइस ही नहीं सरप्राइज है। विजिट olxautos.in।
तुझे तगड़ा इंसेंटिव मिला है। क्या प्लान है?
सोच रहा हूँ गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज में इन्वेस्ट करूँ।
बिल्कुल सही सोच रहे हैं आप। अब गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज में इन्वेस्ट करना आसान हो गया है।
पर कैसे?
RBI रिटेल डायरेक्ट स्कीम में बिना ब्रोकर के आप इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं और आपको आपकी पूंजी पर मिलेगी रिटर्न्स। RBI पोर्टल पर जाइए, मुफ्त में अकाउंट खोलिए और अपने बैंक खाते से सीधे पैसे इन्वेस्ट कीजिए। सुरक्षित, आसान।
रिटायरमेंट के बाद मैं भी यही इन्वेस्ट करूँ।
बहुत सही कह रहे हैं आप। RBI कहता है
जानकार बनिए, सतर्क रहिए।
मेरे लिए कुछ नहीं बचाया।
बचाया ना। सिस्का BLDC फैंस ने 60% पावर बचाया, पैसे बचाए, प्लैनेट बचाया। BLDC मोटर, मोर सेविंग्स, मोर पावरफुल, मोर इको फ्रेंडली।
तुम बचाओ।
सिस्का फैंस, लाइट ईयर्स अहेड।
सिस्का।
नहीं मूर्ति, कोई फायदा नहीं अब। मूर्ति, कोई जरूरत नहीं भाई।
नई कार खरीदने से पहले एको इंश्योरेंस कंपनी चेक करे और 50,000 तक बचाए।
Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch. Let's focus on the big event of the day, and all eyes are on the Reliance Industries AGM. In fact, take a look at the stock right ahead of the AGM speech and showing a lot of resilience, even though the overall market has been really looking extremely weak. So at the moment, on the flat line and trying to stay afloat on those levels. But AGM, remember, has been a big affair for conglomerate Reliance Industries since time immemorial, and the promoters have often made some high voltage announcements to the large shareholder base at the AGM. Now, as a large diversified group, this year is the year of capital expenditure in the new energy business, on which, remember, Mukesh Ambani had made a big bang announcement last year of a whopping $10 billion of investments in the 3 years. An update on how much has been committed and what lies ahead will be the key. Now, telecom vertical, Jio has been preparing for its 5G rollout plan, especially after the spectrum auctions are now over. It is an important milestone for the group. And Jio's milestones, remember, are also very important as the company shows signs of steps to be taken to prepare for an eventual IPO. Now, the investors in Jio platforms have already been waiting for their value unlocking through a listing. And similar is the case with Reliance Retail, with large investor base there. So Mukesh Ambani had announced the IPOs will be done in 5 years in the year 2019's AGM, and next 2 years could be quite eventful on this front. Now, big talking point in Reliance Industries is also the next gen taking over important executive roles in the group companies. We see the succession plans unfold slowly over the next year as well, and first step being already taken in this direction has already been taken because Akash Ambani has taken over as the chairman of Reliance Jio Infocom, Isha Ambani on retail, Anant on energy to follow. Now, Reliance has taken many steps, remember, to be viewed as a truly global company, and therefore the aggressive target of being net zero carbon by the year 2035 is work in progress. Also adds to the premiumization of the equity, and also, remember, perception building on a global stage, and all eyes on Mukesh Ambani's speech at the AGM on all these fronts. Pavitra.
All right, Nisha, thanks a lot for taking us through everything that we should expect from the AGM. It is, of course, a big event, like Nisha pointed out. But let's actually now talk about some of the individual verticals as well. Like Nisha was just pointing out, Reliance's latest venture has been the new energy business. And Sonal is here to tell us what the market is watching out for from the energy business. Sonal.
While the big focus in the AGM is expected to be on the new energy business, company has already completed acquisition and investments to the tune of 5,500 crores so far to build capabilities in the new energy value chain and created multiple subsidiaries last year just for the new energy business. In fact, in the annual report, company focused extensively on the plans in green energy space. Renewable appeared 65 times in the report itself. Company said that India will have the world's most affordable green energy within this decade itself. And over the next 12 months, green energy investments made by Reliance will start going live. And new energy will outshine the existing growth engines in just next 5 to 7 years. So in terms of expectations, more details and potential timelines in terms of execution will be watched out for under various projects, and greater clarity on new energy capex will surprise the market positively. On the oil to chemicals bit, company mentioned how FY22 saw a lot of volatility in the energy market, but Reliance Industries has been able to weather that. So company's strategy in FY23 is something we'll watch out for. Company also spoke about how in this segment particularly, they have been optimizing costs. Additionally, if there is any clarity on either the listing or potential stake sale in the oil to chemicals business is something we'll be watching out for. And lastly, company has plans of decarbonizing the O2C value chain, and the capex plan here will give some more clarity to the investors as well.
All right, thanks Sonal for that. And from energy, let's take it to the retail side of Reliance Industries business. Mangalam Malu is joining us with a heads up of the AGM speech and what could be expected.
Well, FY22 was a tough year for the industry at large as we were battling through multiple waves of COVID as well. But in that, Reliance Retail actually did well, reported record revenues and EBITDA. And importantly, you saw the company invest in the future as well. The revenues neared that 2 lakh crore mark, and the company added 1.5 lakh jobs as well. Some of the key milestones that the company achieved: 2,500 new stores added, almost 8 million square feet of retail area added, of which nearly 3/4 were in tier 2 and beyond cities and not just metros. They doubled their warehousing capacity, as well as registered customers increased by 24% in FY22 as well. At the back end too, we saw a 3 times jump in their merchants, and digital now contributes 17% to their revenue versus just about 10% odd. But the big headline was the near 10,000 crore investment that the company did in a lot of companies, minority, majority, as well as strategic. So starting with companies like Just Dial, 7-Eleven, Milk Basket, Clovia, tie-ups with brands like Ritu Kumar, Manish Malhotra, the who's who, Abraham Thakur, we had Abu Jani and Sandeep Khosla as well, and notwithstanding the $200 million investment that we saw in quick commerce player Dunzo as well. So to that extent, announcements would be extremely crucial to watch out for. As we speak, Reliance is the 56th among top global retailers and the second fastest growing retailer in the world. And remember, the previous AGM, Mukesh Ambani had said that they would grow at least 3 times over the next 3 to 5 years, and importantly, will be among the top 10 retailers in the world. So that's about Reliance. Any announcements in the AGM with regards to that, the digital ecosystem in the retail business, value unlocking will be extremely crucial to watch out for, and expansion of retail offerings and synergies between the acquisitions that the companies made. They've made the investments, now it's time to reap them.
All right, that is what we can expect from the retail division. Mangalam, thanks a lot for that. Finally, let's talk about the telecom business as well, and Rima is joining us to fill us in on that front. Rima.
5G-related announcements are expected to take center stage at the AGM. Remember, Jio spent a whopping 88,000 crores in the recently concluded auctions, twice that of its closest peer, and they even lapped up that expensive 700 megahertz spectrum, which went unsold in the previous auctions. In terms of specifics, expect clarity on the rollout timelines of Jio 5G. The annual report had highlighted how Jio has completed plans for coverage, customer demand for the top 1,000 cities in India to roll out 5G. And its aim, which it outlined in the previous AGM, was to make India 5G yoked. Now, another point to note is that the AGM is often used as a launchpad for new phone releases. In the last AGM, the company showcased Jio Phone Next, the world's most affordable, full touch screen 4G phone in collaboration with Google. In this AGM, the big question is, will Jio announce the launch of the company's first 5G phone, Jio Phone 5G, or even give an indication that it's working on one, and how affordable will it be? Another event that everyone is watching is a Jio IPO. Will we get any update on the timelines for an IPO at the upcoming AGM? That will be a big one to watch. Now, Mukesh Ambani has already got the ball rolling when it comes to succession planning by appointing Akash Ambani as the chairman of Reliance Jio Infocom. Now, as we wrap this up, up and wait for the actual AGM announcement, just want to put into context the size of Jio. The annual operating revenue for Jio platforms crossed $10 billion last year. Jio's network carried 10% of the global mobile data traffic in calendar year 21. Its subscriber base is well over 400 million subscribers. And finally, Jio Fiber, with more than 5 million connected homes, has become the largest fixed broadband provider in India within just 2 years of launch.
All right, so thanks, Rima, for all the details from the telecom vertical. And yes, standard disclaimer flashing on your screens. But remember, the countdown has begun. We are very close to the Reliance AGM speech, which starts at 2 p.m. So all eyes on that, and our entire in-house expert team will be right here to break it down for all of you, and we will capture every moment. So don't go anywhere. Stay with CNBC-TV18 as Reliance Industries' 45th AGM speech is about to begin. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business Lunch, but don't go anywhere. Mid-Cap Radar is going to come up next. Stay tuned.